Today I've got Allysha Lavino with me today, which is really exciting. I've known her for a while. We've collaborated on some things in the past. She was one of my business coaches for a while, and she does so much. So, visionary author. We'll go more into that, but also she brings magic to people in many different ways, whether it's the coaching world or travel world. It is quite vast and amazing. So I'll let her delve into that. But as you know, we'll kind of go into her business, her journey, visions of where she's going from here. Because we all start somewhere and get to somewhere, and then there's always a vision of where we'd like to go. Which is really exciting for me. That's one of my favorite parts. And then advice for anyone looking to get into more of, like, as women, sometimes it's a very male dominated society. And I love that Allysha is very woman centered and that she brings that to everything she does. So, really fun advice, possibly, for women who are looking to get into entrepreneurship and that kind of more woman centered way of doing business. And then she's going to ask me a question and it will be fun. So, Allysha, I'm going to turn it over to you. Would you like to tell us a bit about what you're up to in the world?
Yay. Well, I am a writer by trade, which just means that I've always been passionate about writing, and that has led me on lots of really wild adventures. I ended up leading sacred tours in France because I followed the thread there and dove into history, and amazingly ended up working with the guy who actually lived the Da Vinci Code is the short way to say it. So the man who found the codes in the churches of the south of France that inspired the Da Vinci Code was a writer, and he was 83 when I met him and looking for someone to pick up the thread and to carry on the plot of this incredible story that had traced its way through history. So that's kind of where I began. And it's interesting entering the entrepreneur space from the perspective of being called to do something personally and then knowing that you needed to dedicate your life to that. And so going, okay, how do I create a business around this so that it's sustainable, so that I can keep doing it? And I think a lot of people know what that feels like and have embarked on that in a variety of ways. But it set me off on basically a 15-year journey to really learn how to build a business, how to tell people about it in a way that's successful, and moreover, really at every step and turn, how to be authentic as a woman in, as you said, a space that's not just dominated by men, but is dominated by traditionally masculine values. So work hard, dig in, get ahead. We're taught to be sharky and competitive and all of these ideas that really don't resonate with me. And I'm more on your team here, Megan, with like, let's all collaborate. Like, what would happen if we all work together? What kind of a world would that be? Like that inspires me. I don't want to compete. I want to do something a little bit different than the guy next to me and set up my booth right next to his and go, if you want his, go check him out. If you want mine, check me out. So learning, and in many ways, especially a decade and more ago, carving space for a different way of doing business, a more heart-centered, softer, feminine way to do business where you're really following intuition and and digging deep into authenticity, because I think a lot of business coaches will tell you that successful marketing is authentic marketing. Successful sales is authentic sales conversations. We all know this, but finding that authenticity, like actually knowing how to dig deep enough to do that and then creating the path because it won't fit inside the model that we're given for business. So that's really been the central theme of my journey is how do I build a business? Like there are certain ways to build a business. You know, you create the business structure and then you need these pieces, but how to do that in a way that doesn't fit the mold at all.
Yeah. And that's kind of the fun is that you do things outside of the molds and then you attract those people who also want to do things outside of the mold. And it's really getting that there are people who will be really excited about how you're doing things. And it might not be your next door neighbor or many people in your city, but there's people out there who are really excited about what you're doing. And I love that you just create a space for these people and feel really held and accepted and like validated
Mhm.
how they view them.
Yeah, I definitely I am not your everyday coach or your everyday business coach in any way. Like, I really work with the people who are often called weird. They know they're different. Like, you don't have to tell them they're different, but they're often sensitive, right? So, like, and I say this as such a superpower. And it's used against us so frequently, but like they know when something's wrong with you or in a room. Like, we can go into the forest and hear nature speaking to us. Like, there's a different way of being that's floating just under the surface. And more, we're making space for that in daily life and in our ways of being. But traditionally, this has been, we have to ignore it. We have to compartmentalize that. When actually that intuition and your ability to know exactly what's correct for you and follow that, like, that is your compass through the business world. That is how you know which offer is going to hit. That is how you know what to put out there. That is how you know what to say yes to and what to say no to. And it's something that's so different from navigating with the mind that it takes some practice.
And tell us a bit more about that practice, because like partly your journey has been about learning that practice and owning that practice and then sharing that practice. So
Mm.
tell us a bit about your journey through that and arriving.
That's great. So I have had the most amazing mentors in my life. My grandmother is kind of a witchy woman who taught me to trust my intuition from a young age. My mentor, who was, writing based, was very much leading me on a spiritual adventure through these secrets of the south of France. And so it felt like that epic initiation, like Lord of the Rings style trials, and don't know what you're doing, making it up as you go along, but had that real hero's journey feel to it. And what was great is that along the way I learned so much, both from my mentors but also just from the process of being in it, whether that was business or in daily life. And an author writer's main job is just observe and report. Like, that's what we do. And so those are some of my superpowers, is just to really be able to notice what is going on, to be able to see whether it's inside myself or in the environment around me. And so then taking that and translating that into writing began to actually have me see it and have other people start to see it. And that's really how I started to get into what I call training people to wield their interior magic, right? So, Megan, one of the things that I might name in you is you have an incredible magic of connection, this relational magic that engages people, right? So, we don't just work with you in your capacity as a business person, right? We feel in step with you. You feel like a friend, and that relationship is real, right? And that's one of your gifts. And when we work together, your business is centered around that, right? Like, your business is focused around this superpower that you have. Like, even in this podcast, right? It's centered around this relationship. And that is ultimately what leads to success in that softer way.
Really like that. And I like the softer way because it's not as loud and in your face as other podcasts. But it was really fun getting your feedback today of you listening to my podcast and being like, no, this is something where it's real people telling real stories. And like, it makes me want to listen to it. And I think I kind of like, I got permission almost from having people like you in my life who were like, no, it's okay to do things differently and to not take the coaching from men who are like, this is what works, like this is what's selling, and I'm like, yeah, but it's not me and I don't want to do that. So it's amazing having people, as you said, mentors, and the fact that you had mentors to give you permission to make it okay to teach you that alternate way of doing things. Because sure, it's strange in our culture today, but tell us a bit about like what you've learned, because for you it's based in history it's not a modern thing. Like for you, it's based very deep and in the past as well.
It is. I always kind of joke that my worldview is, it's not like my neighbor's worldview per se. And so when you look at the vast scope of human history, and I don't mean the last 1,000 or 2,000 years, but I mean the tens of thousands of years before that, we didn't have all of this data. It just wasn't a data driven society, right? So we didn't have history books telling us what had happened before. We had stories. Like we're telling here, we had stories, and the stories taught us that, but we could feel them. We could feel them in our bodies, and our bodies were walking on the earth and touching the earth all the time. And there are these incredible barometers of information. We have a tendency to think of like these silly people who don't really know what all of the vast things we know now. Let's say that. And quite in juxtaposition to that, I would say that actually there was so much information available to them that we have lost, and that in some ways we lose more of every day. So when we're looking at running a business in a more heart-centered way, in a more authentic way, it's coming back to those roots of what it means to be human and using all of our skills, all of our superpowers, right? So it's not just the mind. The mind is really important. But for me, the mind is like the tool, right? So if I'm going to dig a hole, I'm the one who has the idea to dig a hole, and I'm the muscle who's going to dig the hole. But a shovel is really helpful. For me, the mind is like that shovel. But it's my heart and my spirit and my drive and my soul, if you will, but something so much bigger that is the force holding that shovel. And so my mind, as I've trained it over the years, is such a amazing tool, right? Because we can create whatever pathways we want, actually, just by whether we believe it or not, just being like, I'm amazing, I'm amazing, I'm amazing. And you'll create that highway in your brain that says, I'm amazing. And so it's this incredible, malleable tool that allows us to move forward in the directions that we choose when we can let it be the shovel rather than the one trying to dig the hole.
That makes so much sense. And it's so much fun because that's not how we usually are told. That's not like, I love having you on here because you bring a whole other world. Like, I've had a lot of people on here, and it's like they come at it from a very mind way of thinking. And for me, I mean, you have these fun group sessions, and I've been in some of them, and like in some ways your job is to turn off your mind and let something else show up.
What's amazing is how smart that other thing is. It's wild. And like my business, as long as I did all the trainings, I had all the coaches, I followed all the advice, I did all the things you were supposed to, and was constantly making it as authentic as you can, and whatever else, but inside these structures that were given. And it wasn't until I really like sank down into who I am, cast off all of the shackles, started absolutely breaking the rules of business in some ways. Like I don't have programs. Everything I do is tailor made for you. Like I have one thing that's a monthly subscription, but if you want to work with me in any sort of a mentorship coaching capacity, we have a call. We figure out what it is you need, and then we figure out what that costs based on what it is and what you can do. Because it doesn't make any sense to me to have these packages that are a one size fits all that you go onto my website and read all about and get so inspired and like, ooh, long sales page. And now by the end, I'm clicking, I'm buying. Like, no, no. Hi, if we're going to work together, let's have a conversation. Let's see how we jive. Let's see if we like each other. Let's see if you like me. Let's see if you're a good candidate. Can I actually make a difference? Like, is this, do you have, I don't know, right? Are you in a spot where working with me is going to create that inflection point? Right? Or is there something else that would help more beforehand? And I have tons of resources, and I'll just point you there because what I'm up to now, I'm going to skip straight into vision because
Sorry, go for it.
what I'm up to is I see a world, like I really deeply see a world where humans recover the magic that's possible for us. so that we can have conversations with trees in a real way. And I know how kooky that sounds. Like, I really get it. And we've all had those childhood moments in one way or another, whether we remember them or not, with being in nature and knowing there's something more and feeling that conversation and being able to tap into ourselves, to our bellies. And for me, my worldview, I don't ask anybody to believe anything I say because it's so individual, but my worldview is that there's this perfect and harmonious pattern that when we can actually touch into exactly where we belong, that we just fit perfectly and in step with everyone and everything else. And if you've ever tried on that idea, or even if you haven't, there's an experience that's possible. There's an experience of aligned synchronicity that's so amazing. It's where I think humans are going. You know, when we experience all the turmoil in the world right now, I think that's this old way dying, and it's painful, but I don't think that humans are going to die. I think we're evolving into something really cool, and I feel like I'm on the cutting edge of that. And so what I do is I help train people for that new world and that new way of being. And that includes all of business. It includes all of your personal life. It includes everything. As a mom, I don't call myself a solopreneur anymore. I call myself a mompreneur because my daughter will show up on my business calls and I'm like, "Hi, this is Isabel." And she wakes up from her nap and she comes out, she goes, "Can I say hi?" And she's saying hi to my clients. And it's all of me. I'm bringing all of me to all the parts of my life.
And I love that so much because we're taught to separate. We're taught to go and do business world versus like to pull ourselves apart into these different compartments. And it was interesting for me because I have a dog and she's my version of a child. But it was interesting for me to kind of talk to someone in the pre of a podcast and be like, my dog might bark. And his response being, great. It's part of your life. It's part of who you are. Like, it's part of you and what you bring to the table. And it was just a fun kind of light bulb moment of exactly what you say. Like, it's part of me. Like, there isn't you get this version and not this version. It's like, this is me. This is my life. Like, you get all of what I bring to the table. And it's just so, so refreshing because that's not necessarily, at least for me, what I thought business was. That wasn't when I started into it, the model that I thought I had to conform to make it work, per se.
Well, I think that's happening in real time too. I mean, 10 years ago, there was much more pressure to be that, let alone when we look at especially the women in business 30, 40 years ago, like bless their hearts, because like there were ways that it was done and there wasn't a lot of respect for doing it outside that box. And I think that I know I've put a lot of work into carving out the space for something different. And I think so many other entrepreneurs, and especially feminine led, whether they be men or women, people who are heart centered and really willing to trust that intuitive right brain side of things. Over the past 10 years, especially, like it's been huge. It's gotten easier. Like it is 1,000 times easier now than it was even just a few years ago.
Well, I'm glad I'm in this part of it and not in that few years. I'm glad there's women like you that myself and other women entrepreneurs can go and connect with. And there's mentors out there now. Whereas before there was much less of that. There's people, and even with all the things that are happening in the world, it kind of feels like these voices are getting louder and more in our space of like, this is possible, and the women in the world are starting to just become bigger presences. So it's a scary time, and very much like you said, it's a really cool time to watch what's coming out and to keep being like, okay, cool, there's these scary things, but also like watch what's happening in a like quieter but really cool and powerful way at the same time. And like you said, I very much feel like you're on the cutting edge of that and someone that's very easy to turn to, and you're so, I don't know if the word's entrenched in it, but you're so solidly standing in it that it's very easy to be re-inspired or like to get that it's possible. Can you tell us a bit about the ways that you are great at continuously bringing that? whether it's your writings that you send out that people can subscribe to or your groups that you put together. Like, you're really good at the consistency factor with a lot of heart to it. How do you do that?
This is my secret, and I honestly think it's a secret to business. I literally show up to everything as myself, like almost no prep. And there are some people who are really authentically prep people, so then that would be the alignment for them. But I have, over the course of my career, done a lot of different kinds of offers and things that I'm very good at in a variety of ways. And what I am doing now that has just caused everything to feel so good and so easy and take off is everything I offer is just what's already in my heart. It's already who I am. It's the conversation that you would have with me if you came over to my house and we were having tea and you said what you said. So I'm not trying to be anything. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not worried about the contribution that I'm going to be or not. I'm just genuinely looking for like what can I contribute to this space? What can I, what's needed here? And some of that is practiced over the years. So I have a quick, like 2-3 minute exercise that I do before I do everything, whether it's a podcast or I host a lot of live events before that, but I also do it before all of my coaching calls, really before anything. And it's just kind of a centering and grounding energy practice of like letting go of everything that's no longer needed and just bringing in like fresh energy that makes me feel connected with the world around me. And then I just I trust who I am. And that's a muscle that I have worked really hard. And so I deeply trust that, but I also know how to say this is what you can expect from me because over time I've seen it. And part of that started in a really funny way. Like I was leading sacred tours in France. This is one of the things that I've done for the past 10 years. And on day one, I would be on perfectly good tour guide behavior. And on day two, I would have it mostly together. And by day three, I'd be drinking wine and shucking and jiving and be like, come on, Don, you don't mean that. And I couldn't sort of hold myself back. I couldn't maintain that professional facade for 10 days. And I started to realize that it was day three, Allysha, that everyone felt. And that mix of kind of, you know, softness and hardness and creating space and thinking that magic is super normal. So just blurting things that apparently are weird, and being willing to challenge people when I'm like, hey, I smell something here. It doesn't smell good. I don't have any problem doing that. And that particular combination, when you works for some people, right? Like I'm not everyone's style. I've always joked that I'm a cult classic, right? You either love me or you don't care.
Like, for us on our family canoe trip, we call that day 16. But it's interesting that there's a day of, like, for us being out in the wilderness is our version of that people suddenly let loose and you see a whole other side of them. And I love the idea of, like, let's shorten the span of time that needs to happen. Like, why can't we let loose and be authentically our most ridiculous, fun, like, creative, and really playing in the here and now instead of in our heads? Because that's really what it feels like you're saying, is you're like, I noticed this and bringing it into the space, versus us living in our heads of, like, assessing and judging, evaluating of what am I allowed to do? Like, is this professional or not? And
Yeah.
that is
So
so valuable.
I get to practice that a lot. One of my favorite things that I do is I have a magical community over on Substack, and we have all different kinds of events. And one of them is I do kind of it's energy magic. I do a guided coaching, and one of them is a book club. But my favorite is our Heretic Happy Hour, where we literally just grab drinks. Most people drink tea, but half the time I have whiskey, wine, beer. Like grab a drink, and then we enter into like kind of a sacred space where we're doing this like deep listening and beautiful sharing, but in a conversation, right? It's not kind of this take turns and everyone sit in a circle, but we're very much together. I'm facilitating, but I'm also having a whiskey, because that's all of me.
Yep. That's exactly it. And so, just for everyone, you've got an amazing book called The Heretic, and that's partly pull it out. Why not?
Yeah.
that partly leads into the Heretic Happy Hour, which you were just talking about. There's these amazing trips to the south of France, which is kind of talked about and where your book is centered. And you do the business coaching. And I just love that it's kind of like the one, they all feed each other in a really cool way of like you're really letting the different aspects of you and your passion and what is really fun for you come, and it's not like this is the one thing I do. You're like, no, this is my full offering because this is fully who I am in the world, and that's what I'm bringing to the table.
Yeah, it's definitely that, right? It's what I'm up to. Like my vision isn't where I'm, the next product I'm going to release in my company. Like it's a world where humans are fundamentally magical. So what that training looks like is so different for everybody, right? So I've mentioned energy magic a couple of times. It's because we have an energy body that needs to be as healthy as our physical body. We exercise, we eat well, but we don't know anything about how to have, a clean aura or strong boundaries or, all of these things that we don't even know what it means. So, I do energy magic coaching, just help people get clear. My favorite new program, and it's kind of programs that I'm doing, are I do a magical mentorship, and then the counterpart to that is the magical business mentorship. So I've done, like Megan did my kind of flagship magical business package, which is, help you set up your business or help your business it's an accelerator, right? So it's fast and intense. But what I'm loving is the mentorship is usually a monthly program. And it's literally just coming together to help you connect, whether it's personally or in the business space, with who you are, like at every level. And then we bring in all of these different tools and you go away and you like practice training your superpowers, like your real life, actual superpowers, right? The ability to see energies and auras, the ability to feel into a space to say the exact right thing at the exact right time, right? The ability to, there's all kinds of crazy ones. I have clients with, yeah, it gets really bonkers, like as you go deeper, but like my superpower is just allowing these communications to come through me. So it's coming from something bigger than me. It's not me and my brain. I call myself a divine translator most of the time now, because whether I'm writing or I'm being a tour guide, or I'm, in a mentorship coaching capacity, it's messages that I'm really not making up. I'm just kind of listening to what's there and bringing through what's needed for that person. And so I'm able to work with people with powers way cooler than mine. Mine is really cool, so I don't want to I don't want to say anything against that, but different from mine. And really help them to learn how they work and connect.
Really like that. I like that a lot. I'm just kind of going through if we've missed anything as we're kind of wrapping up. Like, do you have any other advice? Like, we've gone through a lot of really cool advice for entrepreneurs and people who are looking to get into your like really fun space. Do you have any other things that you would tell?
I love that we did this in such a non-linear
Me
way.
too. I knew it would be. And we're going to see what happens. Here we go.
The biggest thing I would say is just trust yourself. I have a coaching client or business client right now who she's, where were you 5 years ago? I have gone through so many coaches who, told me to do this and told me to do that. And somewhere inside, like there were these little niggles and these things that just didn't quite feel right. And I didn't know how to do it differently. Listen to that. Like, and you may not know what the right path is right now, but when it's not quite right. So allow yourself to just pause, take a deep breath, sink in your body and go, okay, where is the next step? And sometimes it takes a lot of courage. And if you're in business, you already know how to muster that courage. But just taking small steps in the right direction and really finding the right people, whether those are partners or coaches or even just friends to cheer you on at different points in your business, like whatever that looks like, really allowing yourself to be in places that encourage, that make you feel good enough that that little voice gets louder. Because that little voice might just start out by kind of going, but as you start to listen, it'll say, hey, what if you called so-and-so right now? go to this event. It will start giving clearer and more accurate information. And as you move towards that, that's where you start to find the doors opening. That's where you start to find your sweet spot, which no coach can tell you where that is.
Yes.
The best coaches, the best mentors, the best everyone just hold up a mirror so that you can see where you know that path is.
I really like that. I like that a lot. Question for me. What do you got for me today?
Yay. So what I want to ask you is funny because I want your audience to hear this from you, if this makes sense. Like I know at least some of the answer. But Megan, what is your unique magic?
That's a good question. I think you gave it to me in some ways earlier on. It's like the business being called Support to Thrive. It's getting that there's loads of different things that people need to thrive and to do well in the world. And yes, my business is centered on kind of that like physical way. And for me as well, it's safe space. It's creating just a place where people can come and ask questions and not have it figured out. It's where people can come and be messy and chaotic and be like, I don't know what I'm doing or where I'm going. And it's kind of a safe space for stuff to be figured out, for stuff to be cleared, for people to be listened to. And maybe I say, I don't have an answer for you, or maybe I say, like, go talk to this person, go talk to that person. Let's get you set up with some physical things. And that seems to be a very clear theme in my life of like, you can come to me in any chaos, happy, whatever. I accept it. I don't seem to say, you're too much right now. I need you to go away. Like, I like the big, messy adventures, whether it's also the physical, like canoe trips, rock climbing. People always say, like, you do a lot of things in the world. I'm like, yeah, it's fun and it's big and it's like it's high energy. And like I think I part of me is taking the high energy and making it so it makes sense. It's like, great, there's all of these things, and let's organize it a bit. Let's put some systems in place. Like, let's make this safe for rock climbing. Like, great, let's go on a canoe trip. How do we make it so everyone has fun? Or for me, designing a bunkie, like, cool, there's this big idea. Who are you? What do you really value? Great, let's physically put it into the space. So I think that's my magic, is being like, great, what's the chaos? Cool, let's put some systems. Let's actually find something that works to make it happen, to make it come true.
Yay, I love that because you have so much calm in a way that it makes sense that you can just hold that big chaos and kind of be like, yeah, let's streamline this in a way. Like, let's see where these pieces go. Like, yeah, bring me this big thing and we'll figure out how what the next step is, right?
That's exactly it. And it's funny with the business, and there's the financial sector and the software sector and the support sector. It was like I was doing the financing stuff for so long and I was like, but they have needs and I can't meet them. I need more resources. This isn't enough. The vision is bigger than what I offer right now. So it's really fun getting my mind and getting, this is all of me. I need a holistic thing. I would like to help you solve the problems that you have. And if I don't have the resource now, I'd like to try and figure out how to get it and that sort of thing. And then, like you say, how to make a business out of that, and to also get money and those more stay
I love
afloat
how
in life
authentic.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. Just how deeply authentic that is to you. Because I remember when you were working together and you're like, I just want to help people. I love people. I just want to help people.
That's it. Support to thrive. That's what I do in the world. What's your vision? Let's help make it happen. So, good question. If people would like to work with you, Allysha, how do they find you?
Yay. So you can find me at AllyshaLavino.com, and that's kind of all my basic offers. If you think you might want to work with me in any way, literally just fill out the contact form and I will reach out to you personally and we will set up a call. I like to work with people rather than systems. So I don't have a bunch of sales pages that, I mean, I have products and things on my website, but like if you want to connect with me, just connect with me. I'm here. I'm the one answering my emails. I've worked with big teams and now I'm just like, I just want to work with people. The other thing that is our online community over on Substack, and you can find that at www.mysterymagicmayhem.com. And we do tons of fun stuff. So that's an amazing subscription. It's literally $7 a month or $55 for the year. And you get a ridiculous amount for that because I just wanted to make it accessible for everyone. So you get regular writings that keep you inspired, connecting with your magic, connecting with the seasons. But there are also, as I mentioned, live events all the time. There's all kinds of personal support, and the community is awesome. So if you're somebody who feels that intuition, knows there's magic out there, like come hang out in a place where you are super normal and awesome. Like we're all heretics. and it's just really a place. I love normalizing magic, and it's just a place where we just take that for granted. If that's you, just come be at home and stop being called weird by whoever doesn't get it yet.
That's such a great intro. You're being called weird. This is your place. Let's go.
For sure.
Thank you so much, Allysha. It's great having you on.
Thank you, Megan. This was
All
lovely.
inspiring.